And I love this style of hat. I mean, this style of hat was very common coming from sort of European militaristic um, uniforms, which you got to remember that where did pirates come from, right? Pirates ended up in the places like the Caribbean and all over the world, but a lot of the early pirates that we know made such a splash on Caribbean were European former European soldiers, or sometimes they were kicked out and they were ex-military or seamen that had worked at the ocean for a lot of different sailing vessels, and that was their job, right? But a lot of them ended up wearing uniforms of ships and things that they overtook in battle, and they would take on the garb. So you a lot of times, especially like in captains, you would see like hats and so I'm gonna put some sort of skull here. The idea that we're talking about ghosts now, right? Not pirates, but maybe dead pirates, cursed pirates. So I'm just kind of blocking in, thinking a little bit about skull shapes. Just blocking in, staying loose, thinking about that. It's funny, right now I'm actually teaching a class on facial anatomy. I don't know if that had anything to do with me getting started or thinking about this, but these proportions are something that I've been working with a lot lately. Um, so I'm thinking a little bit about the zygomatic bone as it comes up here and the zygomatic arch, edges of the skull. And again, I'm wanting to do something kind of my own, but kind of inspired. But I'm just blocking in the whole design right now. One thing I noticed that was really great about the rides there, and especially Pirates. Pirates was terrifying. I remember the first time I rode it, it changed my life. I mean, it kind of made me forever scared of the dark and scared of the what lurks there, and the idea that there's the tyranny and all that stuff of these evil guys that seemed really capable of doing horrible things, like really something to be scared of. And even as a small child, I mean, there was fire on the ride and, drops in the dark and all those wonderful things that as an adult we can go, yeah. But as a kid, you're like, oh my, this is terrifying. Why, mom, dad, why are we doing this? This is fun. You are all telling me that this is fun, but it's terrifying. Um, and then, of course, you're just holding on for dear life. And I remember those feelings of being so scared and terrified of like this just seems so unnatural what we were doing, and yet everyone was like, "Woo! Yeah, just wait, it'll be cool. You'll like it." Um, but at the time, it was just like, "Are you kidding me? I'm holding on for dear life." And it's funny because now, this last trip we finally took my son down there to experience Disneyland, and it was the same thing. I was like, man, you're gonna love this. You're gonna love this. And I'm just like, this is exactly what somebody told me at one time, and they were right. I would eventually love it, but it was terrifying as hell as like a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old. Now my son's older than that, so he's not as young as I was, but and he ended up liking it as well. Maybe his favorite ride, although a couple other things terrified the hell out of him. Yeah. Yeah, Jackie, you're talking about like those pirates getting out of the jail there and coming to get you. Yeah, exactly. It's like these are evil, characters that are acting really kind of, awful. They're doing all these things that are, they're chasing people with knives and they all seem kind of drunk and out of control, all that kind of stuff. So it just seemed like they could get us. But yet at the same time, and again, this is what I was getting back to, is that, Disney does such a great job of riding that line between being scared and having fun, because if it's truly scaring, it's no fun. If real life scary is not a fun thing. We all know those awful things in life that terrify us and the stuff we can't sleep. And but this, they ride that line between, remember, you're having fun, it's all make believe, but at the same time it's like your instincts are telling you like, this is not good. It's dark. You're on a huge ledge. You're going to fall. There's going to be some huge drop in the dark, and you're going to go plummeting to your death, and no one will. But yet, your mind is stuck in that trap of like psychologically going, no, but we wouldn't be doing this if that were the real case, right? It wouldn't be like that. So your brain struggles with trying to make sense out of something that really your senses are telling you should be awful. Should be awful. Okay. So we got a little bit of a pirate started in here, or a skull. And one thing I noticed about this particular skull and this frontispiece was that it was a skull, which is scary in of itself, right? The idea that skulls represent to us death and, these really terrifying concepts. But at the same time, the skull was kind of has this big toothy grin, like in a silly way, like the way an animated character would have a toothy grin. So you're like, wait, well, okay, so maybe it's not really as bad as it seems. So that definitely gives you a hint, a little clue that, oh, well, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it's not as bad as I'm really thinking that it is. So a little menacing, but at the same time, also kind of fun. And I think that's the trick, is like menacing but fun. I noticed that riding the Star Wars ride, that when they're getting you in line and they're I'm totally drawing a blank on the name now. The one where you're helping the rebels. It'll come to me in a little bit, but that the person commanding you what to do because you're a prisoner, right? Really pretty rude. Really rude to some people that were there, but that was their job, and everyone was like, ha 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 ha. But you're thinking like, wow, if we were not here and someone spoke to you that way, you would tell them what for. But you're acting like a prisoner, but there's nothing. Your instincts are telling you like, this guy is giving me shit. This guy is pushing it, and if this were real life, I would be very upset at this person. So it's kind of fun. But you always wonder, like, is someone going to lose their mind here and forget where we are? And kind of lose it and suddenly get really upset and, like, kind of go off, forgetting that it's a ride? I mean, you hope not, right? Anyway, so, yeah, Pirates, has always had this real mystique for me, and everybody obviously that rides it and comes back and wants to ride it again and again and again. But I was just looking at all those wonderful sets and like the glowiness of the fire. I've gone online and read like how they did some of those special effects, how they got the illusion of that. So sort of a little bit of a bandana here underneath the brim of the hat. Some fantastic ideas. Now I'm going to make this thing look more like a three-dimensional sculpture. So I'm approaching this in a very flat way with the idea that it's going to have some relief to it, and so I'm kind of thinking about dimension and shadows and teeth. And I'm thinking about, those guys had bad teeth. So I'm thinking I will probably end up taking some of these teeth out, but right now I'm kind of thinking a little bit more about the anatomy, what teeth are where, the illusion that they're kind of going back into the head this way. Gotta come a little bit lower. Give a little more fortitude to that chin. The mandible needs to... I'm gonna open the mouth, I think, a little bit, almost like it's kind of laughing a little bit. And I'll get in there with more details, but I'm using a very dull pencil right now with the intention that I'm not really gonna allow myself to get into too much detail. This is watercolor pencil, so if you don't dive in too hard, you can lightly erase. And of course, I will probably end up opaque over this, so it's okay if I have to go back over the top to clean up later. Just getting the general idea in place. All right. So I got this hat, and it seems like, you got to have a patch, right? So I'm going to have a little bit of this eye patch. And of course, this eye is going to be kind of hollow. Dead men tell no tales. Kind of coming in a little bit darker in here. These are, I'm using these watercolor pencils, and I think these are Derwent's. They've had these a long time. Start watercolor. Oh, I guess they're not Derwent's. These are a lot like some ones that I have that are Derwent's, but they're not super expensive, but it's fine because it's just a sketch. So, you know, if you really want to get into watercolor pencils as a medium, then I might suggest, you know, some better brands and experiment with some better brands. But this is just something to get me going. So nasal bone here. Just separating some major lights and darks. Suggestion of the shadow. And I'll get in there in all kinds of detail later, so I'm just getting a suggestion of the core shadows. Get my funky tunes going on again here. Give me one sec. All right. Like chipped teeth. I think mine will look a little bit more realistic. Again, Disney always finding that wonderful way to be silly even in scary moments. This is like an admiral's hat or a sea captain's hat. Go back over to my light blue here a little bit. Again, you hit this with water, and it's gonna put a lot of shadow in there. So, not pressing too hard. Again, my goal is not to fill this with a lot of value. It's to give myself a head start, so that I can concentrate on the paint and not have to worry so much about the values and where they're gonna go as I'm painting. I'm actually kind of giving myself as a little bit of a roadmap. I hit this with water, and this is going to get spread. One of the things that's really great about watercolor pencils is that you kind of can work like this really lightly with them as like you're drawing, and then you hit it with a little bit of water and suddenly it's paint. And of course, the more pencil you put down, the more the pigment comes through. All right. Maybe I can get in a little tighter here. I'm realizing I might be kind of far away. I don't know if I can zoom in. I'm a little scared, to be honest. I'm using a plugin to control my camera. Well, let's hope this works. Yep. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. Okay. And of course, I've lost my background, so give me 1 second. Let's see if I can get this to work here. Oh, it looks like it's making me reset my background. How lovely. Looks a little blurry. Let me see if there's something I can do about that. Trying out this new plugin. Nope. All right. Well, let's see what happens. It's a little blurry there. Guess I probably should have figured this out beforehand. Give me 1 second here, folks. Let me see if there's something I can do to... Is that any better? Not great. It's a little soft. Can't tell if that's my drawing or not. Well, I tell you what. For a little bit, we'll continue like this, so you can kind of get the feeling, and then I'll have to experiment a little bit with it. The old autofocus was the start of all this mess, but this I guess this kind of gives it to you. It's a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to come a little bit over here, shade a little bit of my folds. Assuming these are some kind of like wrap from around his head. Or it could have been her head, I suppose. I don't want it to read like hair, so I think I have to give it a little bit more of a more angle to it as it's connecting up here. All right. I'll work in the other part. Wow. Well, I wish that were a little sharper for you guys. But I'm not sure there's much I can do. I might have to go back to the other. But since we're not into the details here right now anyway, and I am working with the other, this would be a good time to go back and see if I can get this a little clearer for you guys. I mean, it's not terrible. It's doing a zoom, which logically you're going to lose resolution if you don't have a high enough setting, and I don't usually go too high for streaming, so let me drop back and see what happens here. Is that any better? Yeah, I guess that's enough. That's okay. Okay, so now, next thing is let's work a little bit on the setting here. Where would this be? Of course, if you're doing classic pirates, I suppose, Pirates of the Caribbean, you could do the swords, right? You could do the swords, which go underneath the pirate that welcomes you into the ride, right? The classic dead men tell no tales. That guy. But that would be a little bit maybe too much on the ride. So, and I'm not doing the ride again. I'm just using this as inspiration. So, where else would we see something like this? Would it be on some brick? Would it be on some stone? I don't know. Give me 1 second here, folks. See if I can get this back at all. That's not very helpful, being so dark. Let me see if I can get this to help. There we go. So something that would pass behind this, and I'm thinking like wood. I mean, you could kind of think like a ship. I'm thinking something definitely needs to pass behind though. So whatever it is going to be this is like a crest of some sort, right? So this should definitely have an element of and I like the idea that maybe if it were mounted, if it's going to be made out of metal, it's going to have to be heavy enough that it would be mounted to something like concrete, it would seem. So what would work there? Would maybe the idea that it's on something curved? Why don't we do this? Let's run a little bit of a line here. Let's say it's mounted to something here. I like the idea that this is going to break the edge though. So this bronze sculpt is going to have a relief where it's away from the wall. So it definitely breaks the monotony of the straightness of the wall, right? So that it stands out a little bit. I like that idea. But I also want it to be firmly mounted. So it can't be like it's made out of light materials. If this is sculpted, it's going to be heavy. So it's going to be mounted to this thing. So maybe a little bit lower than what I have. This top line seems a little too close to the chin. It's not giving enough negative space to the chin. Losing all my pencils here. If you're just joining, welcome in. Chat's open. Sorry, this is what I meant. I sometimes get away from the chat, forget to look over. Anybody have any questions? Oh, Jackie, yeah. I was thinking of ship 2, yeah. Though I also thought of Billy Bass. Of a Billy Bass. Yeah. If it's attached to wood. Yep. I think, that's the one on the one I saw looked, I think, like it had kind of a wood precipice, like it was attached to something like a dock or something that appeared to be wood, which, obviously that works for the time, right? Because they didn't necessarily have modern concrete, although I don't know, they definitely had stone, right? So it could be, something that was sculpted out of stone or at the front of a stone, maybe like a fountain. But definitely like an entrance or a warning or a decorative piece. So what does that look like? I don't know. Maybe I feel like I want to do something with an angle here. I should just get myself a ruler. Like, why am I even bothering with my pencils here? I have everything like stuck away. Well, what do we have here? Do I have anything I can use? Of course. Rulers, always nice to have, but I recently kind of was moving all my studio stuff around, and I didn't, before I set up here, I didn't even think about getting something like that. Well, I'm thinking about something that maybe kind of comes down at an angle like this, just to make it a little more dynamic, I'll just use a little bit of my pencil straight edge. It's pretty, at least to get it started. Thing like that. Back of a boat? No. Not if it's made out of metal. This would be heavy. But maybe a block or some sort of concrete. Or stone. So let's do something like that. Feels pretty good. And then I can put some ornate details in here. So I'm going to give this a little bit of a relief, like a... Now remember, if I'm painting all this too, this is going to be something that later on I'm going to have a steady brush or come prepared with a ruler next time that I can paint can brush with a ruler. And there's little techniques for ruling with a brush on a ruler. But I like this idea of like a little bit of ornate detail there. I'm not exactly sure what the detail is yet. Maybe I'll have something more to do with the storyline that I'm doing, but right now I'm just throw another little parallel line. Seems like there's another little parallel line here, taking cues off of what I have down below. Note to self, bring ruler next time. So there's sort of a beveled edge there. That's good. I'm going to fix this one just a smidge. Now, one thing to keep in mind too, if you are using watercolor pencils for detailing, you're going to lose those details when you get your lines wet. So just kind of keep that in mind. Okay, what else we got here? So what would go inside there? What would pirates have around their skulls? What do? Eat, drink, be merry, torture people. All the horrible things. I had to kind of recently explain to my son, I'm like, I know we talk a lot about pirates around here, but they were bad. All right, they were criminals. So we must keep that in mind. These were not good citizens. So let's, as much as we have fun with pirates, let's not celebrate them too much in the wrong way. Golden jewels. Love that. That's a great idea. That's a good one, Jackie. So yeah, maybe some ornate jewels, like this is sort of like a tavern. Maybe this is a tavern. The Lost Jewels or something like that. Ooh, that might be kind of fun. Like the Lost Jewels. That'd be the name of the tavern, and there'd be like jewels in it or something like that. Also having to figure out what I'm going to do with this part hanging down here. I thought I would have that go lower, but I'm not sure I will. Could be snakes. Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes? So we have the cloth here. Yeah, snake might be great, right? That's something they would have probably come across in their travels, of being in jungles and places where they were hiding from society. They had to, get to the jewels. So there would have been snakes all around. So maybe we do a sort of snake thing around here. I feel like that's it would also kind of counter the flow we got going over here with the side of the bandana, the sort of braid or the sort of cloth towel wrapped around the head here. So maybe there would be something over here that would counter that, like the snake. Like, could do some sort of python. I'll have to look at my snake heads. Just kind of quietly in there. Not attacking, but just more like enough to kind of creep you out if you happen to notice it. Yeah, this is kind of cool. This creates a nice rhythm. And then the snake could kind of wind around, maybe come back over. Of course, it's getting gross and thick too here because maybe it's a boa or a ball python. So they get pretty thick. And then maybe the leg, the tail wraps around here. Ball pythons are not that long. I used to have a snake, actually. I was really into snakes for a while. And they're amazingly thick, but then they're kind of real short, too. So maybe the tail kind of curls around there. They kind of come to an abrupt stop. That's kind of cool. It's a nice decorative piece. What if would there be flowers? Would that be weird? How about I could do a rose of some sort? I feel like a rose might be nice. What would a rose indicate? Absolutely. Jackie, they were not model citizens. No, they weren't. Definitely not. Okay. But this is good. I like this. This shape's coming along. So we'll have a little bit of a snake here, and then I think probably get some reference here, but I'm assuming that the eyes are somewhere over here. But again, this is a decorative snake, okay, people? This was like somebody that was commissioned to create this. So maybe that would be like the forked tongue. Hey, maybe that's the name of the place. The Forked Tongue. Just lightly sketching in here. So we got jewels. So maybe we could kind of put in some angular jewels here. And remember, you got to be able to do them kind of dimensionally, right? Ugh. Now this could get really gross and hard, trying to make them look like they're real diamonds or something like this. They just have to have a little bit of relief, but that might be kind of cool though. If I could pull that, get that relief off, that sort of three-dimensional look without having to be, perfect. Rings, right? Pirates have rings. Oh yes, absolutely. So I'm going to throw in some sort of earring, which, obviously no ears, can't have an earring on if there's no ears. But maybe around, I'll put it around the zygomatic bone, kind of comes inside zygomatic arch there, wrapped around. Kind of balance out my other side too that I have over here of my So we got a hoop over there. That's good. Maybe some more little stones, little gems. I guess they don't all have to be like princess cut. They could be kind of these. My God, see, this is the kind of thing. This is why being an illustrator, when you're actually doing something for a client, you get to do all the research, and that's the best part, is that you get trained to learn this stuff on doing a job for somebody else, right? That's like one of the coolest things. You're on their dime, and you're getting to learn and be an expert to do a piece for them. Okay. I'm going to fill this thing, but I'm picturing kind of leafy. I want some leafy stuff. And wood, probably, right? Like, I guess this outer part might look like wood. I need something that's wood, but I also need something that's leafy. So I'm thinking, if this snake is slithering and is definitely going to be kind of organic looking, but maybe there needs to be some like plant life kind of in and around this. Would the plants go around the outside if it's part of the sculpture? I don't know. I'm picturing like, what if I did like a ivy or something? Again, it's going to be in relief. So it's going to look like yes, he got his cheekbone pierced. Exactly. Thank you, Jackie. Lost the ear, but the cheekbone was where it ended up landing. So these would be kind of the relief of some sort of plant life and vines. Maybe vines kind of coming down. Worms, more slithering. Oh, I'm just realizing this is a chest, right? Right? Doesn't this kind of look like a chest? Duh. Where buried treasure is on the inside. So maybe this whole thing is a little bit. Got some little gems. Oh, coins. Of course, you got to have some sort of coin. Maybe there could be a stack of coins. So maybe this is a relief, but it kind of looks like some sort of chest. All right. I kind of like that. I really need to kind of sharpen my pencil a little bit more. This might be loud for a sec. I have my old Panasonic down here, which is about on its last legs, but I have never found a better sharpener. Definitely more lizards and creepy crawly stuff, right? So maybe not this time, but I will probably end up painting. But since I'm getting so involved in my design now, I probably will spend more of my time doing this and painting next time. So that's okay. Bugs. Gotta have some bugs. Spiders, let's see, we got snakes. Other creepy crawlies. Oh, that's a good concept, Jackie. See, this is what's great. Having some objective point of view while I'm drawing allows others to think. Because drawing and thinking sometimes are not always easy to do. A lock in the mouth could be good, but my only thing about that is it becomes about security. I mean, breaking the lock is what they're about, right? Trying to get in the chest. And so this would be like them getting inside the chest by having broken the lock. But then it's like, but is the lock broken? Is the lock in their mouth? Or is this a chest that they're keeping their treasure in, right? Not treasure that they're breaking the lock, but keeping the treasure locked behind inside. So then it gets into this whole like, well, it's the lock, and what does the lock mean? So I love your idea, Jackie. Actually, that's pretty clever to have the lock in the mouth, and you might be able to make that work. But I think I want to have a toothy grin. I think the toothy grin is kind of critical, as it implies this sort of laughter and good times. And I think if I put the lock in the mouth, that it just becomes too much like what does the lock mean? And it's about breaking the locks. And yes, they did steal, but this might be their actual case, not somebody else's case. So I don't know. I kind of feel like it gets in the way a little bit a little heavy-handed. So I'm going to say no to the lock in the mouth, but I like the idea of a lock as being some other part of this. That might come into play here for sure. And like, would the lock be above or below? What view of the treasure chest am I looking at? I mean, this chest is very square, right? And it's obviously going to be kind of architectural too. So I can't lose the fact that this would probably be in something structurally strong enough to support it. So I can't just, do whatever. I mean, I could do whatever I want, really, right? But I'm trying to bring some element of practical challenge to this. So if I can find a good way to do the lock, that would be great, especially if the lock's kind of broken. But then I have to think about what kind of lock for the time period that we're in. And you got to figure what this is like 1700s to the early 1800s was kind of piracy all the way up until like the late 1800s. But I think the heyday was like 1780s to like the mid 1800s. I mean, not to say obviously there's still piracy in some parts of the world today, but key is a jewel eye. Yep. I thought about that, but the jewel in the eye, as badass as that is, again, it becomes about the jewel in the eye. So I mean, possible jewel in the eye could work. I'll keep that in mind. I like that concept. That is a good concept, but it's like the devil's eye. But then is it too much about the jewel, like too much about the jewel, like this particular jewel, and that's why it's in the eye, or is the jewel just the lens by which they see things? But I like that. It definitely makes it more than just a hollow skull. But then the hollow skull brings it back to death. And the more stuff you have disrupting that, then the less you're forgetting that it's about these are dead souls, right? So I don't know, Jackie, you're my wingman tonight. This is great. These are all great ideas. So please, if you're part of it, um, that's awesome. Maybe we can find some compromises. So let's see. More jewels in the corners. Maybe I could just stack some other jewels. But I am thinking a little bit about like what other kind of dangerous things would you come across in besides snakes, spiders, I suppose. I was thinking I could put like something creepy crawly like a spider around the edge of the box, like maybe up here in the corner. There could be kind of like a widow. Maybe we could do some sort of like body of a spider. You know, I have an awesome picture of a black widow I took because we had black widows in our garage and I had to kill them all. As to avoid trying to trap them and release them, I had to spray them. Sorry to say, I had to do it. I don't mess around when it comes to poisonous, venomous um, spiders. So, I had a couple of really great photos, but let me see if I can find out. When was that? That was like, it's like around Halloween, I thought. Oh yeah, here we go. Okay. Ooh. Ugh. Yeah. Black widows. Okay, so I'll go with something Black Widow-ish. Doesn't have to be exact. But I've got some. So let's assume that do something. So we got kind of the front. They got these like front ones. And then we've got, I don't know, fangs probably somewhere in there. Pretty small, pretty detailed stuff. We got like a kind of a side leg. And they have 8, right? Arachnids, the whole thing. And there's a little bit of this one, at least in my photo, where the thing tucked its leg behind, and then these kind of really wicked back legs. Those are not great looking. They also come from the middle of the body too, so that's important. That the belly is not where the legs come from. The belly is towards the back. That is not great. I'm going to have to work on those spider legs. I have to do some more study on my spiders. Maybe I could pull off and let's do that. Let's do that study for a second, because it's important. If you don't know it, you got to do some studies of it. How are we doing on time wise, by the way? What are we in here? About an hour and 20. Here, let me grab 1 second. Grab a little piece of some paper, and let's do a little spider study here. Got to get my legs right. Okay, in this particular one, I'm going to go with what I have. So my photo, something like this. So there's the sort of belly, and I'm getting the underside, which is really weird because it kind of almost had like a armor, and then the legs sort of did this. And then there was sort of another one, which I can't tell, so it looks like it kind of curled back on itself. And then another one. This was like such a great photo because I could get really close on it without it moving on me. And then I had this really kind of long one over here. A little more rounded on the belly. I could kind of see her little red belly there. It was crazy because in our garage, there was like 4 of these guys under each of one of the tires. They love the darkness. They like the darkness, which the wheel wells of your tires, that's where they were all hanging out. Not together, but under each wheel there was like another. Oh, that's one little thing I'm noticing here. It tapers a little bit more out here. A little thicker at the body. So let's see. We got 1, 2, 3. I don't even see where the 4th one is on the other side. Oh. It's doing like this because it's grabbing a web. So it's kind of overlapping this other one. It's kind of doing that. Yeah, pointy. Those pointy tips. Really important. You know, it's one of those like random things, right? If you try to invent random, it just feels all kinds of wrong. But when you just see it, you don't even think about it. You're like, oh, no, that's 100% right. But when you try to create random, forget about it. It's super hard. Anyway, I'm not going to go into too much. I just needed to learn. Do a little study. This is what I'm always telling my students. You know, if you don't know what something is, don't make up something you don't know. You got to go study it. You got to go study it. And that's one of the luxuries of our job. We get to study all kinds of subject matter. All right, Jackie, thanks for hanging out. And thanks for some fun ideas. Check everybody out. Jackie Comfort Cats, everybody. She's got a pretty fun channel. Check it out. Some great stuff going on there. Great convos. Jackie, when do you stream? Are you still on? I don't know. If you're still here, you're welcome to drop it into the chats. I don't know if you have a schedule. But, which, speaking of, when we stream next, I'm a little unpredictable right now, but I do run a Discord channel, which I try to post there what my schedule will be when I kind of finalize it. I've been a little bit in my schedule's all over the place lately, so I haven't been able to nail it down, but check out the Discord. If you look in the links for this channel here, you'll see the link to the Discord. Feel free to join up if you want to be part of the dialogue, part of the conversation. I'm always up for helping people, giving feedback. And I like to hear feedback as well. So it's a good place where we can all kind of exchange and stay in touch with each other. So feel free to join the conversation. Be a part of the Discord. You can find me, of course, at all the usual social media places, which you can see above me there, up there. But the Discord is a good way to stay in touch offline. All right, so this was kind of my weird photo, which obviously doesn't resemble the photo or look as scary as the photo does. But this is enough for me to learn. And so what I'm sort of learning here, it looks like, is this thoracic part of the body is where all the legs are, right? And then you kind of have the head where you have the pinchers, the fangs, and they do have fangs. That's how they poison. So the thoracic is sort of where all the legs attach at this point, all 8 of them. And then the belly, of course, is more of the webbing. I don't know, digesting, I guess. So something to think about. Those are my 3 zones. But the legs, fangs, belly. All right. Take that offline. Keep that handy. Now I can come back and work on this guy a little bit more. I'm usually out here weekends. So if you like to come by, hang out in the stream, check us out, that's about when you will find me. All right, so we got the leaves. We got a few jewels. We got a really, really not great spider up here. I'm going to probably have to fix this a little bit because this is just looking all kinds of wrong now that we've done our research. We know that this is not resembling the body enough. So let me see if I can separate my belly a little bit more from the thoracic. We're also talking about tapering those legs a little bit so that they get a little more pointy towards the end. Again, if you're wondering, if you're joining a little bit late, you're wondering, like, what are you doing tonight? I'm designing a crest for some sort of plaque or doorway or something that will look like a relief sculpture. That's what I'm doing. A little different than my usual characters and creatures. But that's okay. It's good to mix it up. My thought is that I'm going to draw this thing first. And then I'm probably going to paint this thing. Starting out with maybe like a watercolor, which is why I am using a watercolor pencil at the moment. But I'm really thinking I'll finish more opaquely with gouache. It's just a little study. But I wanted to challenge myself with something a little bit different. Doing a lot of creatures and characters, which is great, but I like designing all kinds of things. And sometimes the job requires something else. Some of the same themes. We're talking about this would be maybe over a doorway. Maybe at like a pub or a tavern where maybe there were pirates that hung out. Or maybe it could be, I suppose, just for funsies. It could just be a pirate-themed bar. But we're thinking about all those little things. But that we think of with pirates, with eye patches and jewels and things. But that in the end, it will look actually like it's a sculpture. It'll look like a relief more than it would look like that I'm trying to make it look realistic. So it's a relief piece. I think we got to have some weaponry in here for sure, though. So we got eye patches and earrings and jewels. We need that element of danger, right? So pistols, swords. How about something like a sword? That's passing behind the head. So I'm working in watercolor pencil with the idea that when I get it wet, a lot of these lines will dissolve. Why, you say? Because I don't want it to look like a line drawing. I want it ultimately to look dimensional, and I don't always work this way, but I definitely need to put in some drawing for sure. Okay. Knife back here. And then the blade kind of I like that. So the blade kind of comes in behind my snake there. Chat's open. If anybody feels like throwing down a little. So we got some gems and jewels. I think I need a few more stacks of coins over here. Some coins. Got jewels, coins, and what else would be a method of payment? So we got coins over here, jewels over there. We got kind of a sword coming through. Little dagger. We've got a spider that probably is going to need some touch up. Because it's not... I need to get a real sharp tool. That's, I think, part of my problem is I'm drawing with something that's too soft. We got a snake. That's when you're using the watercolor pencils like this. They're soft. They don't hold a point. And that's okay. That's okay. If I need to go to something sharper, I can. But it will probably be more permanent if I do. Gems, boom, boom, boom. We got some plants in here. I think I need just a few more leaves. A few more vines twisting. Maybe there could be kind of a spider web. I think this would end up looking like wood. So I will try to make the chest wood-like. Just bringing in the wood kind of paneling feeling here. I think to do a little bit of cleanup. I'll have to get some reference on my ball python here too. All right. This might have to be enough for this round. It's getting a little late in my world where we are this round this time. Seems like maybe one more thing over here. What would be in this corner? What would be down here? We've got our spider. We've got our snake wrapping through. We've got our dagger cutting through the background. And we've got some vines finding their way in here, but it seems like I could use one more thing, or maybe something that might come down here. Maybe I'll think about that for next time. Cards. Rum. Hello. Pirates. Rum. The thing they lived for. Right? So rum. Yes. Rum. What would that be? Be part of the jewels though, right? Like this is the deadly stuff. But part of the payoff is the coins, the jewels, but the rum would be the payoff. So where do we go with that? Kind of at an angle. Is the rum bottle near the edge? Little flask, kind of short bottle of rum, multiple bottles of rum. Could be kind of a cork there. My friend Jackie had an idea of something in the mouth, a lock or something. But maybe I could put something else in the mouth. Maybe a cork. And of course, you have to have, you know, the X's on the bottle. To know that it's practically poison. I like that. Maybe you have to bump that around a little bit to get that to fit just a little better. Maybe it's a bigger bottle of rum. Maybe there would be part of the chest. Maybe there could be like slash marks in the chest or something like that. I don't know. We'll give it some fresh eyes. We'll pick it up next time, I think, because I think this is a good start. We're getting the concept down, and we'll continue to work this out and figure out what a few more of these details. I don't want to do too much, he said, with this much detail, because it is all going to be something that has to look dimensional and have relief. Like the leaves might look like they're a little bit dimensional. The skull's got to look dimensional. Some of this stuff might look dimensional coming out of the background. So the bottle might be in front of the snake. The jewels might be in front of the bottle. So there's all kinds of semi-logistical thing about the positioning of these items. Again, biting off a lot here. And it doesn't all have to make 100% logical sense. You know, I think of like The Gates of Hell by Rodin, right? It's like it's just this chaotic swirl of evil and horrible things happening, right? But you sort of see stuff and then you sort of lose it. So it doesn't have to be 100% clear exactly. But this will give me a little bit of a roadmap to play with. But I think right now, before I determine too much more, I need to step away so that I can really get fresh eyes and come back to it. And a map. Don't forget that. Got to write that down. Map. Got to write that down. Map. Don't forget map. Right? To the treasure. So we've got the rum, we've got the jewels, we got the coins, we got the sword, we got the snakes, we got the pirates, we got the eye patches, we got the spiders and the creepy crawlies. The map. There has to be something about a map. So maybe in this area here I could tuck in some sort of illusion of a map kind of curled up in here somehow, adjacent to the rum bottle. I could figure it out. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it. Thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you had fun.